aka International Lilo, ATL's most interesting Negro, and you listen to X Squad Radio. You dig?
Check. Yes. You've reached another episode of the Kickin' It with KC show. And we're live here on a Thursday, another Thursday. Blessed to be here. It is at the top of the hour, and it's time for me to open up the camera. Let's get it. All right. Yes. All right, so we live, and it's time to bring on our guest. He's here waiting on Zoom, so we'll bring him on in. Yes. Check. We've reached another episode of Kickin' It with KC. It is 2021 and April the 1st. So, you know what it is. It is a April Fool's Day, but don't be trying to April Fool me. I ain't with that. I ain't with it. But anyway, we got my man Bim joining us right now. How goes it, man? How you doing there? Oh, I think you muted, brother. You muted.
Okay, yeah.
There you go.
Got it.
We got you, man. We got you. How you doing today, man?
Appreciate you having me. I should have texted you ahead of time.
Yep.
I think we both got African names, so there's an accent mark over my E that's never there. So it's pronounced Bang, like name.
Bang.
Yeah.
Bang, John.
Like,
you know,
think of name,
and I've been friends with your face for so long, but I never talked to you, you know what I'm saying? I never heard how it's pronounced, but Bang, okay.
So nobody our age uses, you know, that little piece on Facebook where you can press the thing and it phonetically say your name in the speaker? Yes. It's over like that little piece, it's over on the side. Nobody ever uses it. I just noticed it was there. I'm like, man, I'll just do it one day. Well, yo, thank you for having me, yo.
Hey, man. Happy 404 day.
Man. But to you, I heard what you said, though. We got to get through April Fools to get to 404. So, yeah.
Hey, you're right. You're right about that. They might be thinking you playing with the day, man, you know?
For real. Ain't no time to play, though. It's fun and games, but there's a lot of serious work going on. So, yeah.
And I believe you, brother. I totally do believe. So anyway, welcome to Kickin' It with KC show. I've been doing this about 5+ years now. I have a big monitor.
Congrats.
So thank you. I have a big monitor. So my camera's up here, so I'm looking crazy like, man.
Okay, yeah.
That's why. But I try to make a concerted effort to look, you know, at the camera so people think, that dude weird or got a wandering eye or something, you know what I mean?
Which my homeboy got a wandering eye, so I ain't gonna laugh.
Yeah, no, hey man, don't be laughing, man. So, anyway, it's Happy 404 Day, and now it has expanded to a Happy 404 Weekend, right? Or 404 Day Weekend, or how you said. Tell me a little bit about that, man. Tell me about 404 Day, number one.
Man, it's so crazy. I've been having a lot of conversations recently, so I just appreciate this opportunity to kind of tell the story. Okay. Because all my journalist friends, no one knows the story, the true story of where it came from. And so I go back. There's a dude, I forgot his real name, but he goes by Ricky Raw. I'll get you.
He's a rapper, right?
I'll tag you. Huh?
Is he a rapper?
Yeah, white boy.
White boy, yeah. I've seen him before.
Yeah.
At Mic Club that Drez the Beat used to host.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So, like, they're like, there's like the culture, and then there's like subculture, and then there's subculture. Okay. So, to me, Mic Club and Drez are subculture if, you know, AG and V103 and Streets, if that's the top line culture in terms of numbers. And so the guy, Ricky Raw, around probably 2011, 2012, he used to run with these guys, Beat Chefs, I think. They were out of Athens. And they used to, you know, the 808 is synonymous with the South. Right. And so one day, I think playing around, they saw that April 4th, you know, when you look at the numbers, it was 404. But if you times that times 2, then you would get the 808. You know what I'm saying? And so they did this music event around 404 Day, and as it regards to Atlanta's music in regards to the 808. Okay. And so if you go to Twitter and you look at the hashtag, if you just do hashtag 404 Day, you can follow the hashtag back to like 2012, 2013, and then the sports teams started tweeting it probably around 2014, 2015. Wow. So it was just kind of, there weren't really many parties besides kind of what they were doing in that Mike Club space. Okay. Which is subculture. So it didn't catch on the larger scale besides the sports teams. Right. And then fast forward to late 2018, where Steve Stout, who runs translation marketing, you know Stout from the Jay-Z days. Right. Yep. They landed the AT&T wanted to do an urban campaign. And so they did 212 Day, 313 Day. Okay. So wow. Chicago, New York. And they did 404 Day. Right. And then they did like 310 Day or something like that. And so did some research and found out that those other markets that got the days, those other cities, apparently they weren't celebrating days. You know, they had their own celebrations, but Chicago wasn't doing, what's that, March 13th, you know, 313 or what, you know. Right. Or New York wasn't doing February 12th. It just never dawned on them for whatever reason. Right. And so because of the subculture of the Mike Club, it was so it didn't connect to a larger platform. So it looked like the large platform that had thousands of dollars to spend with AT&T, concert by 2 Chainz, free food from a few years ago. Yeah. It seemed like that set off the day, enough to where the Atlanta Journal-Constitution even would report on it. And when we did our day, it was the next year after that AT&T campaign. Okay. And all we were doing, we wanted to do, so last year would have been the next year. So Atlanta was supposed to have the Final Four last year. Yeah. And same partners, Metro Atlanta Chamber, Atlanta Influences Everything, Butter ATL, and a few other people. But last year, no COVID, we were planning on 404 Day that would coincide with the Final Four. And if you looked at the Final Four, wow, the Final Four games were going to be played in Atlanta on 404. So the Final Four would have been on 404, and then we were just going to Atlanta that thing out, you know. There you go. But COVID, like everybody got the COVID. So we moved it to online. The Final Four never happened. We moved it to online, had Jermaine Dupri, Metro Atlanta Chamber, United Way, a few other people. And it was like, I think we might have got up to almost 4,000 people last year on IG Live. And then, you know, this year, because of COVID, we kind of, it's a little in person and, you know, with a lot of online stuff as well. Yeah. But I wanted to make sure, so we have to track the story of where it came from as to how we got here. And my last point in saying that is my cousin, he does a lot of stuff with Magic City and the Coalition DJs and Crew Lounge. Okay. And he hits me up, Nick Love. He hits me up the other day and is like, there's somebody who has a domain name, 404weekend.com. Wow. And told my cousin and Crew Lounge, like, oh, yeah, I see y'all doing 404 stuff. it's gonna be 20. You owe us 20% because that's our day. You know what I'm saying? But nobody owns it. If there was anybody that would own it, it would be the guy who created it. Yeah. Which he's doing something, but he's just happy that everybody that is taking off. He's not trying to like get copyrights and do all this. So as of right now, nobody really owns 404 Day. It's Atlanta's day, and I think everybody should do something. Yeah. I think if you look at our sponsors, I think we probably got some strong sponsors with the Metro Atlanta Chamber and Delta and like a few other people, 107.9. So we try to do from the streets to the suites, you know what I'm saying? So you get 107.9 and some other folks to kind of give you the streets, but then we got the Metro Atlanta Chamber and Delta and the A Pledge with Coca-Cola and some other folks to kind of give you the suites, you know what I'm saying? So Atlanta influences everything, civic, corporate, and culture. We try to have 404 Day kind of represent all of those moments. And the last piece I'll say to that, Hank Aaron's number was 44. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And on a you know, Atlanta's known for partying. We party easily for anything. Yeah. One thing we need to remember with 404 Day on a somber note, but celebration of life is that Dr. King, our you know, a child of Atlanta, OG, was assassinated on April 4th. You know what I'm saying? So it's just crazy that Dr. King also died on 404. He died on the most Atlanta day possible. You know, that's for crazy. Whatever that's worth. So yeah.
That's definitely crazy. Yeah. Let me give a shout out to my man, the number one Chief Rocket Jersey Vern, built for this network, and also my man Togo of the Lonely Hearts Cafe. We got a live chat room going, so we got Facebook Live going, YouTube Live going, and we're also live on the audio room, X Squad Radio. And shout out to Melvin of Bay 11 Auto, and Conyers, another executive producer on X Squad Radio, which I run. Yes, sir. The East Side. And he's an original ATL and also grew up, I think, Southwest Atlanta. So.
Okay, I'm from the West End, so yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that was my next question. Grew up in Atlanta. Are you a Grady baby or Crawford Long or what?
Nah, man, I just had this conversation with my cousin. So I'm actually birth certificate, and I don't know the name of the hospital. I was born in Douglasville.
Okay. I know it's a Wellstar hospital now. I actually work at Wellstar, but I don't know the name was in. I don't know what it was in.
Ain't no telling. I know what after brag and say, well, it's the same hospital that Kanye was born in. So I say that, you know what I'm saying?
He was born here. That's crazy.
Yeah. He moved to Chicago when he was 3. His mom used to work was a high-ranking professor at Morris Brown.
Yes, I heard.
A lot of people don't know his dad was the first full-time black photographer hired by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
That's crazy.
So Kanye's Atlanta roots run deep. But yeah, I was born in Douglasville. My mom was actually a social worker at Grady while I was in her stomach. So I don't know, you know, in terms of the Grady baby narrative or whatever, my mom was working at Grady while I was in her stomach. One of the natural birth. Grady wasn't doing natural births at the time. Okay. And so my brother, my sister, and my mom had all of us at the hospital in Douglasville. It was the only hospital that was doing natural births in Atlanta at the time.
Man, that's awesome. That's an awesome story.
For whatever that means.
Hey, that's good right there. That's awesome. Yeah. And so let's spend a little time on your thoughts here. You grew up in Atlanta. What school did you go to, number one?
Was bused. I caught the M2M program. So raised in the West End, but Garden Hills, Sutton, in North Atlanta. So all Atlanta public schools, but all in Buckhead.
That was a performing arts type school, right?
Performing arts and international studies. Yeah.
All right. And that was my next question. Going to a school like that, Atlanta always has a rich history, especially in, music, film, and politics, and just the rich culture that we have. What's a notable alumnus of your school, or alumni of that school? I think Ludacris was one, right?
Nah, Ludacris went to Banneker. He's Southside. Him and 2 Chainz them.
Okay.
shit, let me go. It's crazy. So because we had a performing arts, we would always kind of be in the realm of Tri-Cities because they were performing arts too.
Okay.
And they have the, you know, most notable alumni, you know, in Outkast, and then they got Escape. So when I was at North Atlanta, most notable from the time I was there would be Bobby Valentino.
Okay.
You know, Mr. when the Mr. days came out, you know, and then songwriter Jonte Austin. He went to North, but the largest alumni, much older than me, but would be Jasmine Guy. Yeah. And the super largest, who's still killing it right now, would be RuPaul.
Wow.
RuPaul actually went to Northside.
That's crazy.
Yeah, yo, RuPaul is from North Atlanta.
Wow.
You know.
That's crazy.
So he's probably the largest alumni that probably ever come out of North Atlanta. Probably.
Shout out to Ben of BS3 Radio and the BS3 Radio Show and also Network. And so you coming up in Atlanta, I'm trying to get your opinion on the being grown up in Atlanta, the movement and the culture that you put together, or the movement of the culture that you put together. What was your thoughts of being from a city that just had so much going? You know, the thing about Atlanta to me was it had the strong political ties, and in the same vein, it grew an entertainment scene. You know, it always had an entertainment scene, but it was always suppressed. You know what I mean? Until a certain point where you had the key music players that came and, you know, did their things and actually built, you know, from the ground up what we have. But what was your thoughts of being surrounded by that? Like, how was it able to help you to, you know, put this movement together that you did?
Hold up. Where you from again, Kesey? Where you from?
So I'm a Grady baby, and then I moved to Virginia at 2 years old, and I came back here to go to Morehouse in 1990, and I haven't left ever since then.
Okay. So were you Atlanta? The policy piece in Maynard, as much as we like to say, you know, we like to paint them as the rule, not the exception, but you could look at certain things and say, well, Maynard, at this point, he was the exception, not the rule. All the other mayors, no knock on them, but maybe that was, his shoes were some large shoes to fill. Yeah. I really don't think his shoes were that large to fill. I think he set a playbook and a rule book on you know, how to set policy with your people in mind. And I think, you know, Bill Campbell and some other folks just kind of did what they wanted to do in that space. And ever since then, the platform that he set has not been the same since. But the platform that he set, the policy, it helped create black wealth, and black spaces allow for high levels of black expression. Okay. And I don't think that the black policymakers knew how much that they were going to open up the doors for black expression and everything that came after that, especially beyond the Jazz Festival and the National Black Arts Festival. Okay. So, like most of our parents, you know, nobody really saw hip hop lasting and making, you know, an impact, especially in Atlanta.
Right. Exactly.
And so white people didn't see it, but the older black guard never saw it either. And so where it gets weird in Atlanta is we've made a lot of there's a lot of talk and kind of situations based around racial representation. So having a black mayor and black representation, which a lot of cities are still trying to get there. Yeah. But in Atlanta, where in 2021 versus the time we grew up in Maynard Jackson's era, was Atlanta never made room for cultural representation and leadership. So when you look at like 100 Black Men of Atlanta, and I think Gooch is over there. Like good people over at 100 Black Man, NAACP, even like the Young Emerging 100. A lot of these older Black organizations that now have young people in the organizations, they still don't make room for cultural representation. So you got to kind of be this posturing Black in order to do business and do things, not cultural Black. So looking like how we look right now, in another city, you might have a white person hate on you for looking like this. But Atlanta is so Black, yo, and it's levels to the Blackness. You'll have a Black person hate on you for showing up like this. You know what I'm saying? That's how Black it is. Wow. You know, and so it's just no one ever saw the culture. You know, we thought, and no, my business partner went to Morehouse, and I grew up around the corner from Morehouse. So no knock on Morehouse. But so Morehouse and Spelman, I think Atlanta leadership felt like that's the Black. You know what I'm saying? So there's room for that Black. But the liberal artsy Black of Clark Atlanta, that vibe is what runs heavy through Atlanta, influences everything and the culture. Right. And so you can't have one without have one without the other. Where you have your Morehouse and your Spelman, you have to have your Clark Atlanta and your Morris Brown. And Morris Brown, the kind of
the structure, the infrastructure.
Yeah, yo. And so I think that when you keep that balance intact, you're able to hit them from one side with the policy and infrastructure, which you need, which a lot of other cities don't have. And then you're able to come with the cultural capital that Atlanta has. And so those two things should make Atlanta like one of the best cities in the world. And I think we are, but then you got this #1 in income inequality. So we got the largest gap between the rich and poor in the country. And then we have a 4% upward mobility rate. So if you're born poor in Atlanta, 96% chance that you'll die poor. So, you know, those are probably Black
right there.
Yo, so something is off in terms of this excellence. Yeah. So with Atlanta influences everything, we try to figure out how the influence is leverageable to create workforce and economic development. You know we have something. What is this influence, this cultural capital that we have? What is it worth? You know what I'm saying? What can we buy with that? Can we buy more jobs for the community because we cooler than everybody else and everybody want cool? What's that worth to a brand? You know, so that's kind of how we leverage our company.
Okay. Shout out to James Montgomery of the Ear Hustling Podcast, also on BS3 Radio Network. I have another question here for you in regards to. All right, we're getting a little deeper. We're gonna talk about we kind of segue into your company, but I want to know your thoughts on Old South versus the New South, or Old Atlanta versus New Atlanta. I should say even more so. That's a loaded question. Let me go more specific. All right, your thoughts on you growing up and how Atlanta was to now being a grown man in the middle of this movement with how Atlanta now is, and we're gonna speak about it. I was gonna bring this up later, but to me, my thought process is that the infrastructure of Atlanta is not keeping up with the movement and the amount of people that are coming here. So that's a lot of different things that need to, be in place that aren't there right now. And that's my thoughts. What's your thoughts as far as the current situation in Atlanta?
Well, to your point about the infrastructure, if you remember when Shirley Franklin was mayor, so her whole 2-term mayor was weird. The first 4 years, she dealt with infrastructure problems. Atlanta, that was like on the other side of Bill Campbell in the Olympics. Right. And that's when that big rush of people just started coming. And Atlanta's roads, and mainly Atlanta's water pipes, were not ready for the amount of people that were moving here so fast. So there was a lot. It's crazy that majority of her first 4 years was spent around like water pipes and infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then the last 4 years was when the country went into the recession.
Yeah.
So just her whole time as mayor was weird in that space, but she pushed through. She got it done. You know,
it's funny when you think about that. All of the mayors and their pieces in it. You think about Bill Campbell and what his pieces were. His legacy. You think about Sean Reed.
Yeah.
So everybody got their little
Bill
pieces.
Campbell and fucking Mike Childs, yo. That's a relationship. Somebody need to do a story on Bill Campbell and Mike Childs.
Is that the Club Nickers owner?
Yeah, Club Nickers,
yes.
yo. And remember they burnt. Who did he burn? Did he burn down the Gentleman Club?
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was strip club beef. That's some real A-Town. But yeah, you know, the interesting piece is that like, so my daughter's 15. She lives in Houston. She's been living in Houston for a while. Okay. So I go back and forth there, and I talk to our age group in Houston, and I observe Houston's growth. And you know, you listen to like Houston when they be like, you know, I'm coming down and swinging lane to lane, and just that whole the popping trunks with the swinging and banging. That stuff is still there in Houston at a very high level. And when you ask them about like Travis Scott or like the new Houston, they just be like, that's just kind of Travis Scott he's Houston, but they consider Travis Scott, he's just the new young people anywhere, even though he's Houston.
Right.
But I look at their ability to still keep their 1992, 93 lifestyle up to date in some form. Where if you look at the way we used to, and I know everybody got the Chargers and the Hellcats now, but you remember with like
the Cutlasses.
The Cutlass. And it wasn't just, it was like the way we used to like drive, lane it. It just pull out, nigga just bounce on you, you know, like
right.
That piece of Atlanta lifestyle is gone. Like it's gone. It's like the ticking, and then the fact that like we know yeek, right? The fact that somehow with young people yeek, Y-E-E-K, went to yeet, Y-E-E-T. Again, something happened. And so why I feel the old Atlanta way of life, it only got established when you look at that Kilo and Arrested Development, Raheem the Dream, Freaknik years. That was us developing who we were in comparison to New York and LA. Those dances, the slang, the fashion. And then if you look at when did that set in, what, 91, 92, you know, kind of in that time. By 1998, 99, so many people had moved to Atlanta. You got to realize we only got maybe 10 years by ourselves. You see what I'm saying? Just Atlanta being Atlanta, whatever that was, country, whatever it was, we only got probably a decade by ourselves. Doing whatever it was we doing. Before it got tampered with by everybody else. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
And I'm not saying that the tamper with is bad. You know, I saw how we went from high-tech boots to Timberlands. And Timberlands was a New York thing, but so many New Yorkers moved. We figured out how to rock the Timberland. And so everybody started bringing their stuff here and mixing it in with ours.
With our culture. And
next thing you know, the way in which AG Entertainment, and not only is he's an Ethiopian. My homegirl married him. Good dude. There's nothing against him. I'm just for Atlanta purposes. Since you asked if I was a Grady Bay, whatever, this guy is an Ethiopian. Came here, and he's got an amazing story. Parking lot attendant to one of the top club promoters. Like But when he set the standard of how to party, I'm not saying that his standard of how to party is right or wrong. It was not our standard. You know what I'm saying? Right? And I had never, oh my God, yo. And when, I remember my last point in that, when ATL, the movie, came out, Visions. This was still Vision days. Yeah. Vision was doing an ATL movie party. And it was like the soundtrack release. It was jumping. And so I done went to the store. I had an Atlanta Braves hat, but I done went and got the crisp new Atlanta Braves hat. And it was the regular. It wasn't one of the camouflage Atlanta Braves hats or whatever. It was standard, brand new, crisp, navy blue and red Atlanta Braves hat. Okay. And I done walked up to the club. You know, back then you print out your fucking pass. Right? Print out your pass. You get in with your little pass. Yeah. And I remember AG was like, yeah, it's gonna be 50 for the hat. I'm like, 50 for the hat? What you talking about? We celebrate, this for Atlanta? Yeah, it ain't about none of that. It's just 50 for the hat. 50 for the hat. I'm like, God, like how did we get here? You know what I'm saying? So I look at, I'm 42. Yeah. So for me, you know, Atlanta influenced everything. We kind of took it into our own hands, but I look at my OGs, 47, 48, 49, 50. Yeah. I'm like, well, no disrespect, but I blame you. It couldn't have been me. You know what I'm saying? Like I was when the 559 was at its height. Yeah. I was junior, senior in high school. So my group wasn't running the club scene. Right. So I look at all the older Atlanta guys, and I'm like, yo, these New York niggas and everybody else, they came and took it from y'all, right? And now the younger Atlanta, we just stuck like, well, damn, I guess we got to do what they do, because my OG from Atlanta, he paying to get in AG parties too. So I guess that's what we got to do. I guess we got to pay to get in a party. Here we go. So, and I can't talk, my two partners in AIE are not from Atlanta. I'm the only one from Atlanta. Wow. Okay. But each of them, if you talk to each of them, they got their own real Atlanta stories that, you know, I'll let them, they can take care of themselves and justify. They have their own discussion. Then you have a different, you know, you have the different areas. You got the east side version of it, you know what I mean? Like you mentioned Coalition, so I know Spearhead X. It's my OG. Yeah, you have that version of it, you know. You have the east side version of, you know, how you gotta go to X's IG post late last week. Okay. He went on and I understand him, but he sound like the old guy, but I agree with him. But he went on this long rant about the Lil Nas X video, you know. Yeah. You got when you I'll check him out. I'm gonna check him out. I'm gonna check him out. All right, now let's get into the business here. How did you get started with marketing? What brought about you in the Atlanta Influence Everything movement? Like, did you study marketing in school? Like, how'd you even bring this whole thing up? Yeah, so I wanted to work at LaFace coming out of high school. I wanted to be an A&R. I couldn't rap, you know what I'm saying? I feel like my rhythm was off, dancing, producing. Like I wasn't, none of that was me, but I always had an ear for good music and just fell in love with the culture, hip hop culture, since like Beat Street and Crush Groove and breaking. Okay. And would just always look at those like New York and LA, like, man, like those are the places. Yep. And I would, you know, it felt like it wasn't gonna be in Atlanta. And then lo and behold, like around my 10th grade was what, 94, 95? Like when Outkast and LaFace and when that stuff started settling in Atlanta, I'm like, oh wow, Atlanta, I can stay at home and I can actually work in the music industry from Atlanta. But what I learned was there was no way in. There's no application. You can't like fill out an application and apply to be an A&R at a record label. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't know. Nobody could tell me how to do it. So I went to Jackson State. I went to East Mississippi Community College. Started thought I was gonna play football there. Got injured again. I hurt my knee in high school. Got injured again there. Then went to Jackson State, and I chose Jackson State because at the time, '99 was when David Banner had formed the group Crooked Letters. Okay. And so when I saw that he was coming out of Jackson, and I'm like, well, I ain't gonna go back to Atlanta just because I grew up in all of that. Let me see what else is out here. So I majored in marketing and branding and advertising at Jackson State. Okay. And came out, and just when I came out, I came out spring 02, 9/11 had happened fall 01. Mm-hmm. So it was like a hiring freeze. It was just weird. And worked at Tower Records for a couple years. Wow. In Buckhead after I graduated. Yeah. And from there, I met my business partner Ian at this marketing agency, GTM, that was in Castleberry Hill. Okay. They were working on Al Gore had this it was pre-YouTube days. Al Gore had started a TV channel called Current TV. Okay. It was the first like user-generated TV channel or whatever. Mm-hmm. So got hired to work on that campaign, and then ended up working on the truth.com campaign. This black marketing agency had both of those contracts. And that's where I met my business partner, Ian, who's still my partner to this day. So doing that, and we found out that a lot of brands in doing that work would look to Atlanta for multicultural, like 18 to 35 marketing. Yeah. But what made Atlanta unique is that it had a black lean or multicultural. So it was still multicultural with a heavy black lean to it. And so a lot of brands would look to Atlanta to say, well, we can get multicultural, but we can still get the black. And so they would just, what we found out was Atlanta was code word for black in marketing circles. We're like, let's get Atlanta. Wow. We never knew, but that was their way of saying, let's get the blacks. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's how I got into marketing. Okay.
We'll pause there. We'll go further. I got your YouTube page pulled up. I wanted to play one of these little promos, one of these shorter clips. I got the storyboard with Killer Mike, and also got the Spud promo. We can play one or both, whichever one you want.
The Killer Mike one.
Right, let's get the Killer Mike pop. All right, give me 1 second. Cue it up here. All right, share the screen. Zoom pop. Okay, share the screen with you. All right, and share the sound with you so you can hear it. All right, let's get it. All right, we'll play this one.
I'm excited because it really is about the arts and how we can engage community and really use the arts as a tool to really engage.
I was in Austin a few months ago and walked down 6th, and every single club had an Atlanta artist's music coming out of it.
A lot of people come here from different parts of the world, and a lot of people take advantage of what Atlanta has to offer. But Atlanta is not even where it should be.
What I've never wanted to have to do again.
Impart their wisdom. Don't catch you slipping now. Don't catch you slipping now. Look what I'm whipping.
Nice. I like that. Very nice. Very nice. All right. Bring it back. All right. So tell me a little bit about that. How did you feel about that situation?
There. Mm-hmm. That's you know, Fulton County, yo, Jesus Christ. We working with government agencies. Like, government agencies are here for the people, supposedly. Yeah. But the way in which you have to go about doing business with them to help the people is just like, yo, just it makes us just rather deal with brands, but except for brands. brands ain't gonna help you, you know, if you on EBT or Section 8, you know, or if your kid is at a sucky school and you're in generational poverty and you just need a better situation. Mm-hmm. That's Fulton County's job to a certain extent. In some, it's public service. And so, you know, we wanted to use cultural influence to push the needle on things that really help people. So therefore, you know, at that time, Fulton County art and culture, there are 1 million people in Fulton County. Okay. And every time Fulton County gives out money for art and culture, they give it to the same 60 people, probably over the past 7 years. And they're like, yo, something is off. If there are 1 million residents in the county, we keep giving the money to the same 60 people. There got to be more people that identify as creatives and artists in the county. It's something that we're not doing. So my partner, Tori, he's content creator. He's a electrician and gaffer on movie sets. And then he himself has done he did a documentary on Rock City that went to Sundance. Yeah. Then he did a VH1 rock doc on Atlanta called ATL Rise. So he knows like the act of like storyboarding an idea and turning a storyboard into something. Yeah. So he wanted to use that idea, and Fulton County was looking for something that was unique. And so Tori had the storyboard idea. So we just said, yo, Fulton County, we'll have somebody come in, tell their story, some creative come in, tell their story, and we'll draw out the story. And that story could be used to motivate people to follow their artistic dreams. Now, all you got to do on the back end, Fulton County, is, you know, so the first guy that spoke, he was the executive director of Fulton County Arts and Culture. He's no longer there, and they're actually looking for a new person. But all they had to do was come in and say, hey, we're Fulton County, you know, we have money for grants, you know, this is the information, this is how you get it. And we were the honey, you know what I'm saying, to attract it. Fulton County could never get their information out to people, so they would apply. Because they all is I don't want to call them lame, it's government. You know, they don't have no swagger. So we use Killer Mike and you know, the club promo thing, free alcohol, you know what I'm saying? You know how it go. So we use that. And obviously Fulton County could never throw an event with free alcohol. Right. But their hired consultants could. So that was the purpose of the event, to kind of get the policymakers and the creative class all in one room to try to figure out how to better work together. So yeah, that was the purpose of that event. And those are the type of events that we like to do. If we could take a brand in Hendrix Gin, you know, or tired of using Nike as an example. We go Adidas. Like Adidas, or most recent, we're working on something with Foot Locker. We'll see how it goes. But the Foot Locker play, or any play we get with a brand, that's our play. You know what I'm saying? But our business model is, how do we take a situation that came to us for some cool and lean that back into community in some form? Because you just have to decide to do it as the brand or as the entity that's got to play. The ball is in your court on if you want to include some sort of nonprofit or community to it. Most people just don't think like that for whatever reason. But I'm from the West End, and I had to realize that that's how I was raised.
There you go. So I learned a lot of this stuff. So my business partner, got to give a shout out to James Caldwell.
James.
The whole team who I run me and my guy Glenn. We actually ran a music conference up in Charlotte. And so James made all these great relationships, and that's how I know you, because, you know, James' relationship with you, the same with my next guest at 9, Elisa, with her and her, you know, documentary that she's doing. But, you know, he makes relationships, you know what I mean? And he told me a lot about, you know, a lot of the politics with dealing with the city of Atlanta, you know what I mean? And he's always been a guy who, you know, brought things together as far as, brands and non-profit and, funding and all that other good stuff, man. So I learned a lot of that stuff from him. Shout out to James, because I thought about him when you brought a lot of those pieces up.
Mm-hmm.
So the name, the phrase, the brand, the marketing, Atlanta influences everything. Break that down for me. I know I read, I think it was either on your site or was something I was reading where it was presented where, everybody had their city versus everybody, Atlanta versus everybody. You took it one more step and went your direction. Give me that story.
Jeez, I tell all the time, there was an assumption that other people knew what we know. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, we think Atlanta is cool and it influences things, whether we say it or not. There's a certain aura in which Atlanta folks have. And I didn't know until I traveled and went to other places. The way we carry ourselves as black people in Atlanta is at a level I don't think black people in any other city in the U.S. can match, because we just lived a life of black freedom probably more than any other, even in D.C. in comparison to D.C., Prince George's County, Oakland, Chicago. The Atlanta black has been the freest to be whatever black is over a long period of time. And so I thought that was normal, but it wasn't. And I thought everybody knew, but they didn't. And so we were pitching Nike on a campaign for the 1996 Olympic, the 20th anniversary of the 1996 Olympic shoes that they did. Okay. And they didn't want to cut the budget. We had come up with a scavenger hunt, like a citywide scavenger hunt in Atlanta, on some like Willy Wonka and the Golden Ticket type shit, where somebody would find these clues, and then you meet up at Centennial Park, where like Billy Payne and the Maynard Jackson's family, and representatives from Nike, and probably like some sort of Outkast Big Boy concert, and then people would win these shoes. And Nike didn't want to cut the check, and they started saying that Atlanta didn't have a place like the Bean in Chicago where people just congregated, and that we just weren't a large enough city like Chicago, like Singapore, like LA, and like New York. And that there was nothing I could do about the size of the city and all of those types of things. Right. But I this was around the time when everybody and their mama was dabbing. Everybody was, hey, Right. And I'm like, yo, that's us. Yeah. And I knew, Shawty, folk was saying Shawty, and 12. I knew the term for police had made it around rap. Obviously, you saw George Floyd, like, like, fuck 12 became like a thing. Yeah. Probably second to defund the police, but fuck 12 is Atlanta street slang. You know what I mean? How did that become a rallying cry? But again, you'll see these local Atlanta things become larger scale black things. Yeah. Which the larger scale black things would end up becoming pop culture. Yep. And then if you travel the world, you're able to see American pop culture kind of permeate other parts of the world. So if you were to retrace the steps, it would be a lot of blackness, but the essence of that would come from the black Mecca. So what I learned was that it wasn't necessarily the Grady baby per se, but that the Grady baby, whether they know it or not, laid wet concrete and tilled the soil and made it fertile. And that wet concrete and fertile soil was a calling card to like all these other black people, St. Louis, Jacksonville, Florida, Jackson, Mississippi, Chicago, New York, to bring their blackness, their cuisine from where they're from, and their slang and their dances, and come bring it all to this one location where it all kind of just got mixed in. And I hate to use New Orleans gumbo, but like New Orleans gumbo. Damn Saints. But you know, Atlanta kind of became this gumbo of blackness. And if you know the essence, culture is, and I think Kanye said it years ago. Black people weren't able to get in on a tobacco when tobacco became a business. Tobacco and alcohol and oil, when all of those became businesses, I think black folks were probably still being looked at as 3/5 human beings.
Wow.
And so there's nothing that we really own in America besides our culture. You know what I'm saying? The things that we create, which it's IP. It's not physical really as much, but it's some form of IP. And so cultural representation, cultural ownership is something that is attainable in Atlanta if we were to be intentional about it and put a little bit of policy around it. And so not knowing, obviously didn't know what to say. I got petty in my feelings when Nike didn't want to spend the money. And so I just kind of yelled out like, yo, we don't have all of those things, but you know, Atlanta influences everything, man. Like that's all I can tell you. In my Brooklyn, Ian is from Brooklyn. He went to Morehouse, came out of Morehouse in 2005. And he said, you know, he had to run it through his Brooklyn mind first, of course. But when he did that, he was like, yo, I think you got a point. I graduated from Morehouse. I never went back to Brooklyn. And the problem I see with Atlanta is that me being from Brooklyn, I can go anywhere in the world and I can say, you know, where Brooklyn at? Or is Brooklyn in the house? And people just come out of nowhere and be like, yo, we right here. And he said, see, Atlanta, y'all get mad. All of y'all shit is reactionary. But don't nobody know y'all stories. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like I had to learn after the fact that so-and-so was from here or this got created here. I didn't know. You know, he was like, Atlanta, people got to y'all have to tell your story better. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And this is the beginning of narrative owning and storytelling for Atlanta. So that's how and why it was created.
Okay. All right. I got your site pulled up right now. The AIE.life site. A lot of different things here on the site. I'm on a shop page. Of course, one is about the business. One's about
this is a lot of new stuff for
and this right here is the shop. Tell me a little bit about, man, what you got going on here, man. You're a marketing guy. You got some great items here, man. Me and my wife spent some time on here. We're trying to figure out what we getting because you're like, okay, you better not order nothing without me. So that's how.
Man, so those top items, a lot of that is just got put on the site maybe a couple of days ago for 404 Day in collaboration with Butter ATL and a few other people, and then that Black History, that was we did that for Black History Month, but it wouldn't, that has to stay up there because then we would just be like everybody else celebrating the month. So that shirt should always be available.
Okay.
And then the jogging suit just came out a couple months ago. And we're a consulting agency first.
Okay.
And we happen to create the shirt. So I have a third partner, Tori, who joined AIE about a year and a half after we were created, because he saw that Ian and I were so stuck in marketing and consulting that we were missing the residual income and the storytelling that would come from fashion. Okay. And I did not want to, I hope Sherrod, shout out Sherrod them at God is Dope, folks over at Raunchy, folks over at Honor Roll, other fashion lines in Atlanta. But we didn't want to get pegged as a fashion line and for people to miss the message of what we were trying to do. Because it could get lost in just Curtis from Patchwork. Curtis Daniels from Patchwork was the one that told me, like, yo, don't let people make y'all into a t-shirt line and lose the message. Right. So once we were able to firmly establish the message, the shirt is almost like a business card. So we were to go over new business. Some new business we have, people are asking for the shirt and we upsell them on how to leverage the culture and leverage the influence for what they're doing. And some people hit us up for consulting and then say, you know, well, yeah, we'll create a shirt on the other end of the consulting. So we've just had to figure out how to balance both the fashion piece, as you know, as well as the consulting, the cultural consulting that we do. And I've been more the consultant, not as much the fashion. But we've had to take the fashion more serious as we've gotten more sales. You know, that's really the residual income, the mailbox money, as people would say. Okay. You know, the other stuff we got to do, you know, we got to kind of pitch business. It's a different level of work coming doing the consulting.
Awesome. I got the wrong scene up. I'm like, you ain't from J, from Soul for Real. I had the wrong scene up. Anyway, question. So, how can people reach? Like, what are your social media handles, etc.? How can they get in touch with you? And just whatever you want anybody to know in your closing words.
So, my personal stuff is simple. It's on any platform. I ain't on TikTok though. I think AIE is on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but any other main platform is just my name, BEM, JOINER. So at Bang Joyner on any social media platform, and then Atlanta Influences Everything. Same on social media platforms, and the website AIE.life is our website. And then you can email me at BEM@AIE.life if you're trying to find me. And you know, I just, you know, if you're in Atlanta right now, just pay attention. There's a lot of movement. You know, there's a lot of building. Microsoft is here. You know, Airbnb just landed. Microsoft is here. There's a lot of changes in the city, and we're supposed to have the World Cup in 2026. You know, it's just like in Atlanta, you got to stay on your toes and just be nimble and be ready to adapt. You know, this change. Yeah, the city that burnt down, I guess it's the gift and the curse of being the Phoenix city. It seemed like Atlanta shapeshift every 10 years. Yeah. So it's just like, you know, own your history, know your history, but you got to be ready to adapt and maneuver in Atlanta. The old Atlanta ain't going, you count your blessings that you got a chance to experience that. And that's really the best you could do is give thanks to God that you got a chance to come from old Atlanta. Yes. But trying to use old Atlanta as a means to make it in new Atlanta, like, you're going to have to adapt. This thing ain't, just know your history and make sure these folks know the history too. But you got to be nimble in this new Atlanta. There's a lot of changes, a lot of growth, a lot of dope stuff happening, man. So, you know, let's just be ready. Let's take it. Okay.
Man, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you coming through. Definitely, man. We got a lot of information, but we had a lot more to chop it up with, man. You know what I mean?
Next time in person.
Hey, anytime, man. Anytime you want to come holler at your man, you know what I'm saying? You want to tell me about new movement you got going on, new products, new shirt, new phrase, new marketing, whatever. I'm here, man. I run a whole podcast.
I got to get you some gear.
Oh yeah. Oh,
we got a beer. We got a beer coming out too. End of April with Pontoon Brewery. It's a lemon pepper wet beer. So yeah, I got to get you that.
Hold one second. Go ahead.
So yeah, I just got to get you the beer when it come out.
All right, my mama called me. She blowing me up.
That's how my mom do.
Like, I don't do a show in here, right?
But no. Thank you for having me, bro.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming in, man, and we'll see you. You know what I'm saying? Anytime you're ready, come on in here.
Yes, sir.
All right,
appreciate it.
Thanks,
have
man.
a good one.
Take care, brother.
All right.
Later. Peace. All right, that was your guy Bame here. Yep. Appreciate him definitely coming in, representing the Atlanta Influences Everything movement. Yes. Really, very good information. All right, so we got our next guest lined up here. We'll get into it here. Let me go ahead and do my little introduction here and bring her in. So, we ran a minute over here, but let me go ahead and admit her. All right, but as she comes in, we got Elisa Gambino, director, executive producer, all kinds of things, all kinds of good things she got on her plate. How you doing there, Elisa? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. I am doing well. Yep, sorry we ran a minute over here, but we tried to, wrap it up. But Bame has so much good information with the Atlanta Influence everything.
Yeah, that was fascinating. I enjoyed listening.
Yes. And listen, I'm like, him being a key person here in the city, you just as well with, what you got going on as well. So the transition, although y'all in two different areas, y'all still have the same, influence here of pushing Atlanta to the world.
Thank you. That's good company I'm with if what you're saying is true. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. Where are you originally from? That's what I didn't know.
Yeah, so I was born in New York City.
Okay.
And then I lived in Washington, D.C. till I was 16. And then we moved to Italy. And then I lived in Russia. And then I came here. So I've been here since 1999. Mm-hmm. So we were, at some point during all of that, I was hired by CNN. And I worked at the CNN Rome Bureau and then the CNN Moscow Bureau. And then I came to Atlanta to work at CNN here. And that's how I landed in Atlanta. But this is my home. I love it here. It's just such a fabulous city. So I don't think I'll live anywhere else.
Oh, yeah, I mean, and that's a good thing. That's one thing we like to hear is that we actually are able. Let me switch my screen here too. I still got BAM's information up here. And there you are. All right. Yeah, that looks better. All right, but we're happy for you to be able to, move here and to, make this your home and, treat it like, how you do, you know what I mean? So you got in here and you basically, were able to put your imprint on, who you are, how you were raised, your culture, your influences, everything you did, you put into your projects and, blessed others with it. So I want to definitely give you kudos for that.
Thank you. Thanks.
I
think there's so many transplants here. I mean, what you just described is Atlanta, right? In many ways.
Yes.
I mean, we have a rich history here, obviously, too. But
you come from a place that has, transplants, and everybody's in New York. So, we're not used to it here.
No.
But, change comes, growth, happens here. And that's basically what's going on in the city of Atlanta. Is growth and change. Tell me a little bit about your start here. How did you even get into film? Tell me a little bit about your upbringing. You were raised in New York. What made you even think, did you do what you wanted to do, or was it okay, I wanted to be a doctor, but then you ended up in film, or what was it? Give me a little bit about your history and your upbringing.
Yeah. No, so my family moved to Italy when I was in high school.
Okay.
And we moved from, I lived in the New York area till I was 5, and then we lived in Washington, D.C. until I was 17, and then we moved to Italy. My dad was with the U.S. government. Mm-hmm. And so we were in Rome, and that's where I lived. And then when I graduated from high school, I came to the States to go to college, and I go back to Italy every summer and Christmas to visit my family. And so when I graduated from college, I just went back. I went back because I thought I wanted to live there. And so, but I needed to work, right? That awful thing we all have to do. And so, so I went back and I got a job with CNN, and it was just a startup kind of network at the time, but they needed someone in the bureau who could speak Italian and read the Italian newspapers and help set up stories. And so then I kept getting what I call battlefield promotion. So I was a bureau assistant, but then the Berlin Wall came down and they needed bodies. So they said, Elisa, come, you can feed tape out of the tent by the wall. And then the revolution in Romania happened. They said, come, Elisa, you'll you can do some producing, and then one thing led to another. The first Gulf War, the war in Bosnia, all these things happened. So I spent a lot of time in conflict zones as a field producer. And so that's how I got into the news business. It was a fluke. I was a marketing major in college, but I guess it was my language skill. And my boss at CNN always said, when I felt like, because I didn't have a journalism background, he would say, the most important thing you can do is just not be a jerk. And people will want to work with you. So just try to help everyone as much as you can, and don't be a pain. And so that was kind of my marching orders. So I kept going to all these places. And so then the producer in the bureau left, and I got her job. And then I went to Moscow, and then I came here, and I was working with CNN. So that's what got me involved in news and journalism. So I worked with some really excellent journalists like Christiane Amanpour and Jim Clancy, and just a lot of CNN's top journalists overseas. And so then when I came back here, I wanted to do longer stories, not such short ones. And so that kind of got me into documentary filmmaking.
Okay. And so with the documentary, so I didn't see your history of what you did previous to the Pine Lake project.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit about what you had as far as some of the documentaries that you worked on between that point and this point, because we're gonna cover a lot. The Pine Lake's definitely gonna be a major part of the discussion. But what led up to that? What else did you do?
So I was at CNN for a while here in Atlanta, and then my husband is he's a photographer and editor. And so when we left, we both decided to leave CNN together and start our own production company. Okay. And so we were doing, we did a film for the High Museum, and we did smaller projects. And then we did a film called Help Us Find Sunil Tripathi, which is about a Brown University student. This was a feature documentary we did about a Brown University student who went missing around the time of the Boston Marathon bombing. And he was social media, and then journalists started saying that he was one of the suspects, and not, they started saying that he was one of the Tsarnaev brothers, but he wasn't. And so we made a film about this young man and his story, and what happened to the family when he was misidentified as being one of the Boston Marathon bombers. And it was very traumatic for them, and it was a terrible injustice. And so that we did that film, and that film is on Amazon, and it was gotten to a lot of film festivals, and we really enjoyed making that film. And so we wanted to continue doing this kind of work, but oftentimes with documentary filmmakers, you don't make blockbusters. You make films that you make because you feel like you have something that you want to share. And so we also do a lot of work in global health for private companies, and so that's also part of our work. So over the years, we've done a lot of traveling to East Africa and South America and China and Asia. So we do those two things, but it's a documentary filmmaking that we really enjoy and love. And it would be really wonderful to be able to do that, only that, but it's it's hard to do that. Solely that.
Okay, so next I'm gonna actually do the trailer on the Welcome to Pine Lake documentary. But I don't want to get it wrong. Give me a quick setup of Welcome to Pine Lake, because I'm gonna have my piece on it. But why did you make this documentary? What was your purpose in making this documentary? In fact, how did you find out about Pine Lake and the issue there to want to go to Pine Lake? It's such a small town in the middle of the metro Atlanta suburbs, which is really interesting.
It is a small town, but in many respects, I feel it's a microcosm for progressive white America. Right. And so, but that's not why I went there. I went there because in 2018 there were so many women running for public office, and I was really inspired by this. And I wanted to see if there was some place in the United States that was already run by women, because at the time when all those women were running for office in 2018, every woman wonders when she wakes up. At some point in her life, she wonders, what would this world be like if we ran it?
Mayor, the city council.
And so I started imagining, what would this world be like if, you know, women ran it? So I looked for a place, and I happened to find the only place that I could find in the entire country that was entirely run by women. So the mayor, the entire city council, the chief of police, the municipal judge, every single position of authority or power in that city is women, is run by women, and continues to now. And so, so I was inspired by this, and so I went and I asked the mayor how she would feel about doing, you know, participating in a documentary about this leadership, and she said sure. So we started filming this story about female leadership. But when we walked into the courtroom, something clicked, that something didn't feel right.
Something was different, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, we're getting into that. We're going to play. We'll go ahead and play the trailer, and then we'll come back
drink some tea
and discuss it. All right, let me go ahead and tune this up here. All right, share the screen so that you can see it. Share the sound. All right, here we go.
The mayor, the city council, everything is run by a woman. That's impressive. I love that.
What would you expect at a place all run by women?
This, this right here.
Come join the patrol.
How many cities with less than 800 people have a police department? How many have a beach? We're running a country club on a shoestring budget. I pledge allegiance to the flag. We have spent our money, our focus, and our time as citizens creating this art's natural habitat. That's our tagline.
It's easy to use slogans. It's easy to offer gimmicks. But you got to put your money and your words where your mouth is.
Pine Lake is predominantly white, but the surrounding area is 90% black.
Here in our city court, the optics kind of suck for me sometimes. You coming to work and wanting to do a great job, and every time you hear it, it's like Pine Lake.
This could be one of the small little cities to show other cities how to conduct themselves and how to do things, you know what I'm saying? But we don't have that relationship yet. They haven't come out here to speak to us.
We got some love going on. Yes. Ta-da!
I appreciate your help.
That's some extra words of advice right there.
Oh, trust me. I'll take whatever. I ain't going back to jail.
I hate the whole color scheme. I just want to be clear. We're left back here by ourselves.
It could turn into, you know, a spooky place, I think.
They're just living a life that's calm, and you don't mess with them.
Ma'am, you're charged with 1 count of expired tag. How do you wish to plead?
Guilty.
Guilty. You have 1 count of expired tag. How are you pleading to it?
Guilty.
What is female leadership? What are police to the society? What are... Good Lord. I'm just a simple country guitar player.
That's the world we live in, man.
All right, we are back. So I watched the whole thing, and we're gonna get into it. I got it wrong. The question I had, we'll get into some of my questions here, but first off, let me say, well done. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Very, very good. Very, very informing. I knew nothing about any of this, even though I've been in Atlanta now 27 years now. No, actually been here 31 years. I came here in 1990 for school. I'm dating.
Well, you must pay your tax.
Right, exactly. So, of course, I've driven down Rock Bridge through Pine Lake. I always knew not to speed. I was told not to speed. Don't go through here, you know. Police, you know, this, you know. But I asked my friends, because I got some opinions of some people who lived surrounding the area. They, you know, some of them lived off Redan. In what is it? The main Street
Rock
community.
Bridge.
Yeah.
Rockbridge, yeah.
Yep. So they were over that way, but they were in the Main Street community off Redan. So they were that way, and it took Rockbridge to, you know, you can take Rockbridge to get there. So my question to them was, did you hear any of these stories? You know any of this stuff? And a lot of people didn't know. They just knew. They were just told not to go that way. And so at least 3 people I talked to today said they just don't drive down Rockbridge, which is crazy. They don't go that way. You know, even though that may be a direction, you know, to where their house is. And I was like, okay, now that's very interesting. Then I watched the whole film. So I'll say we'll go ahead and get into it and my thought process, my observations. All right, first question. Beautifully shot. The opening scene with the mermaid going across the lake. Tell me you being a director, what were you conveying there with the mermaid going across?
Well, the mermaid, Pine Lake is a very tight-knit community. And so they have a certain ethos about them, that it's very progressive, and that, you know, people can just be whoever they want to be there. You can be anyone you want to be. They're very accepting of people in however they show up in life. And there is a woman who lives in Pine Lake whose mother made that mermaid tail for her, and she likes to swim in the lake with the mermaid tail. And the woman is also a very talented photographer. And this is just, she's one of the most creative people I've ever met in my life. Her name's Danielle Ross. Okay. And she does that. And so I heard about it, and I said, let us know when you swim around in the lake, because we'd love to film you. And so she was swimming, and we filmed her. But right before you see her, there's a little boy, and he's looking out the porch onto the lake. And it's almost like the little boy, in his innocence, he sees something out there that all the adults around him don't see. Like, he's looking out. And so I was trying to create this feeling of this very peaceful and inviting place. But as you know, because you watch the film then takes a turn. Mm-hmm. Yes. So it was, the point was to convey the Pine Lake that the residents believe Pine Lake to be. And they believe it to be a place where a mermaid should feel perfectly comfortable swimming around in the lake.
Yes. So, it was a contrast here. Before we get to the contrast. So the city council had 9 chairs, all ladies. Out of the ladies, you had 2 blacks represented on there. Out of the chair.
Yeah, no. There are 6 council members, including the mayor, and there's 1 black woman. Oh. And then the police chief and the judge are black. Women are black women, yes. Okay.
And so I watched the documentary, and Judge Barnes Wiggins was the name, right?
Mm-hmm. Judge Wiggins, yeah.
Yeah, so it looked pleasant, you know, very, very pleasant with the, you know, the people who came in, the offenders and the people who interacted with her. I did get that she was very personable, you know. The interaction was respectful. But like you said, there was a disproportionate number of blacks in the courtroom, and the way you filmed it, which was interesting, like I said, you looking in the courtroom, that's all you saw was blacks in the courtroom, and then when you showed the whites who were the residents of Pine Lake, it was a contrast. You see them having fun, they're singing, they're swimming, they're barbecuing, they're playing volleyball, they're planning things, they're drinking wine, they're just having an oasis of a life. And it was like the two contrasts were definitely the parts of the documentary. That were the main parts of the documentary that pretty much the emphasis and the overview and everything that, you know, encompassed the actual documentary. So tell me a little bit about that in your shooting. But that's pretty much what you were conveying, correct?
Yeah, yes, you did a great job. It's exactly, I'm so happy that everything, yes, that's what I was trying to convey. That that it's almost like they don't even know what's going on in the courtroom. And in such a small community, 750 people, give and take a few, you have to drive by that courthouse. You cannot not see it because there's a line of people outside of the courthouse. The court is open 3 days a month. Judge Wiggins sees and hears and cares about every single person that comes in front of her. But the problem isn't in the courtroom itself. The problem is what happens before, because this is a pipeline. Yes. So the city council and the residents of Pine Lake, their taxes that are some of the highest in DeKalb County, and they, you know, have made it very clear that they think their taxes are very high for the services that they get in the city. And so there's no opportunity to, I guess, to raise the taxes. So they have to find the money for their police force somewhere. So what happens is the police on a 1/4 mile stretch of road on the edge of town wait, and when people come through, they have a scanner, so they're not looking in the window and saying, oh, that's a black person, I'm going to stop them. They're stopping everybody that drives through with expired tags. Right. These aren't speeding tickets. So when you hear from people, don't speed through Pine Lake, that's kind of like urban legend, because they don't give speeding tickets. There are 3 lights in this 1/4 mile. It would be close to impossible to speed through there. Okay. And they don't have a speed gun. This is a scanner for it. So when they were accused 20 years ago of profiling, the DA said that they weren't profiling because pretty much 90% of the people that drive down Rockbridge Road are people of color, right. And that is reflected in the number of tickets. But if the city knows that those are the people driving down the road, and it's a predominantly white city, then that's systemic racism. So the pipeline begins at the city council. They don't fund the police force at the level it needs to be funded. The police force then gives out tickets. I mean, this is a problem all over the country, right? Municipalities don't have the kind of money that they need. And we've all been stopped on a highway and didn't even know we were going through some little city that then gave us a ticket for going 10 miles over the speed limit, right? So this happens everywhere, but Pine Lake is special because of the demographics. And then as far as I'm concerned, they have a special responsibility not to do this because of the demographics of the city and the surrounding areas. So the police give the tickets, and then the people end up in court. But you also saw people in orange jumpsuits. Yes. And that was really surprising. I mean, I just had no idea when I went into that courtroom the first time that we were going to see people in jumpsuits. I didn't know, I frankly didn't know what I was expecting, but what I saw wasn't what I was expecting. And so the police force, they've never had accusations of police brutality or anything like that. I mean, they embody, community policing. But it starts at the city council, that they don't recognize that this is problematic.
An issue. And so let me go back to the start. Pine Lake was actually formed, did it say 1937? Is when they were? Yeah. Okay. And they were
A sundown city.
A sundown city.
Sundown.
Okay. Okay. And they were actually a getaway for people, right? Just to have a oasis to get away and relax somewhere, right? I guess.
Right, and the deeds and they advertise as white, as whites only.
Yes.
I mean, which is to be expected in Georgia at that time.
Right. But that folklore probably continued on. I mean, just permeated. And look at the residents.
They're predominantly white.
Right.
And my observations are, if you are a white person living in a place, who do you hire to sell your house? Another white person. Who does that white person sell the house to? Who's in their network?
Wow.
Or white people, right?
Right.
So
it's never gonna change.
Well, I mean, there are black people who live in Pine Lake, and there's no effort to keep black people out. I mean, there are, but it's predominantly white, and there are a lot of cities that are predominantly white, but not in the middle of DeKalb County.
In the middle of DeKalb County, right? Okay, so let's go one step further. The business owners. You had the barber in there, and for some reason I know this barber. I don't know where I know his face from, but
Kent Morris, he cuts hair now on Hambrick. He's left there.
Okay, he's on Hambrick.
Yeah.
Okay, but it was funny because you saw his point of view, and then you saw the lady's point of view, who was a seamstress, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And his point of view was, okay, he wanted to open up dialogue. Then you had the mechanic, who he kind of has been there a long time and talked to history. But you had the barber who said, they don't come here, they don't really talk to us. I wish they would reach out more. That was his perspective. The lady, her perspective was, everyone's happy, let them continue doing what they're doing. So it was kind of interesting to see the different perspectives of everyone on that. Tell me about the business owners, because like you said, those businesses are probably on Rockbridge. But that area is not fully warm and embraced as part of Pine Lake, even though it's there. That's the money-making street. Tell me about that.
No, totally. I mean, the residents don't frequent those businesses. But by the same token, there aren't enough residents to fully support those businesses. I mean, those businesses have business from around that part of the county, obviously. A small community of 750 people can't single-handedly keep a restaurant going.
Right.
And I did ask June, the barber, I said, June, but as a white person, I come in here and you have pictures of all black people on your walls and I said, probably a white person isn't going to come in here to get their hair cut, even though and he said when he could cut my hair and do a fine job, but I'm sure. But the thing is that but June said, but I don't care that they don't come to my shop. He said, what I care about is I don't even feel like I'm part of the community. So that's what you heard in there, know.
Okay.
And the seamstress, Gwen, yes, she likes being there. She actually likes the police presence, and she says that makes her feel safe. You hear her say that in the film, but she also says, but Pine Lake, you don't mess with them. You don't, you don't mess with them. And this is their reputation. And then Roger, he's been there for so long. He sees everything on his board. He sees it all. But he had a very interesting thing when he said, he had a very interesting thing to say when he said, the new ones, he means the residents of Pine Lake, they want a Starbucks and a Whole Foods. Right. He's very aware that his business is not what they want.
Right. He's a tire shop, right? That's a tire shop, right?
He's a mechanic, yeah. He's been there forever.
Wow. And so he's not the ideal business. He's just, for them, he's in the way because they want this Starbucks and this progressive stuff close by.
Yeah, it was his observation. Yes, yeah. Businesses that would also bring in more revenue for the city.
Right. Yes. So that's the other part I took from it, like you said, is they're missing a lot of the economic development, and so their only real source is the funding that's coming through this policing, this over policing.
Pine Lake can't go anywhere. You know, it can't really grow. It would have to annex in other parts of that area.
Okay.
And so it has nowhere to grow except growing towards the business district.
Okay.
So, you know, they have a money crunch, as many small cities do.
Wow. This is good stuff here. There was a person here by the name, what was his name? His name was Sway Gates.
Yes.
And he spoke about his interaction where I guess he went to the lake / I guess they call it the beach.
Yeah.
And he was saying that his interaction wasn't so warm and fuzzy every time with the police. He just felt like he had a level of not harassment, but you know, where they are looking and extra observing him when he said, you know, he's a person that's probably not a resident in the area, and you know they know that, but he says they're extra. They have a lot of attention on him, and he was saying that, okay, I'm in the water, I can't have a gun or anything on me because I just got swimming trunks on. I'm here with my 4-year-old daughter. You know what I mean? So that was something that was kind of interesting. Like I said, most of the police are black, if I saw. So it wasn't necessarily a racial profiling, but that one seems like just a profiling of, okay, we don't want you not interfering with our residents, but we want to protect our residents here. And you know,
that's who they work for.
We want you to know that we see you. So I think that was a lot of what I kind of got a perception of on that.
Yeah, I mean, they work for the city of Pine Lake. They don't work, you know, that's who they're there to serve.
Right.
I found Sway's discussion there was very disheartening to me because he said, I don't have any real problems when I go down there, but I have been looked at. Well, if you're going to a public beach and the police are staring at you, that is a real problem.
Yeah.
That's a problem. He should be able to go to the beach with his child and not be looked at.
Right.
And especially if in a community that puts itself out as being progressive,
right.
You know, that in particular, do you know what I'm saying?
Right. Because what I kind of observed, there was different age groups of people there, but probably a majority of a mature, you know, residential area there. You know, people who've actually, you know, probably middle class, older, 40 plus years old, and then you probably had, you know, some younger couples there, but not so much. But you know, it didn't necessarily have the face of America. You know, the face of America is now you got gays, you got rich people, poor people, blacks, whites, Asians, Hispanic, you know, all the different. That's what makes up America. You know what I mean? And Pine Lake definitely doesn't encompass that, and so it was kind of hard for me to get, not from the documentary, what the political climate was, or the I don't know if they were conservative or liberal. It's kind of hard to see.
There were all the Stacey Abrams signs and this kind of thing. I mean, it is a very, you know, I think 90% of the people who live there overwhelmingly voted for Stacey Abrams.
Okay.
It is a very, very LGBTQ friendly, accepting, inclusive community.
Okay.
So much so that they don't even feel it's necessary to like, you know, put up rainbow flags no, because they actually, I mean, that community walks the walk when it comes to that, totally.
Okay.
So and yes, and it's a very progressive place. And it's, yeah. But
so that's good. So that kind of gives me, so I don't really, like you say, I don't see it as Pine Lake being the historical place like it once was, where like these people are more encompassing and more accepting. But now this is where the controversy comes in, and that is, you said this stuff is still going on, where the overwhelming amount of blacks are still going into the courtrooms here, even though the residents here. So it's like no one's doing anything about it. Even though, like I said, I could tell that the mayor, very cool woman, you know, not a better word than cool, but you know, she was very even keeled, very. She worked on the Stacey Abrams campaign and did, you know, all the different things that she was involved with, and you know, and her interaction with her black chief of police and her black judge and everybody else, you could tell that, you know, she's a real authentic person. But yet this still goes on. That's what makes this really interesting.
Well, I think, you know, during the last 4 years, you know, there was a lot of, well, look, don't look over here, look over there. Look, you know, look at the people who are actively trying to take others' rights away, and you know, look at, and my feeling was, yes, look over there, but we also have, as a person who considers herself progressive as well, we have to look at ourselves and our actions. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of great signage that I put in my yard, and there's you know, all this stuff, but you know, what can we really do? What can we really do? Like, it doesn't have to be one or the other. It has to be all encompassing. And the thing is about Pine Lake is, because it's so small, it's so easy to see. But this is America. That Pine Lake and the city council, it's a microcosm for America. And that is the point of the film.
Yes.
In a certain half of about half of America, I would say, not all of America. So it's a microcosm for half of our country, if you go by the poll, you know, the voting, half of, and then whatever percentage of that is, you know, white progressive America.
Right.
And so we have to look, because when it affects the pocketbooks, that's when it becomes, we don't want to talk about it. And so at the end of the film, well, we can talk about the end of the film later, but so it's an examination of, you know, what we say versus what we do.
Right.
And because the country's so polarized right now, you know, between, you know, progressive and conservative, there's not a lot of room for self-reflection, because then the other group comes in and says, see, you know, look at you, and so it becomes very difficult to have these kinds of conversations. I don't believe that the people, the residents of Pine Lake, necessarily knew what was going on. I think that they believed that 20 years ago the problem was solved, and they have less revenue coming in from the ticketing. But the council always knew. And in the year and a half that we were filming there, they never brought it up at any council meeting as if it was something that they needed to fix, as if it were problematic, or even say that it wasn't sustainable. There was no conversation around that.
Wow.
And that's a problem.
Wow. I'm going to ask you this question here. Let me give a shout out to the greatest of the Love Jones podcast, X Squad radio show on my X Squad network. Also, Bame is in the chat room. He said you're very he actually said you're dope. He said she's dope. She's dropping dimes in here. So he said you're very knowledgeable on here.
Well,
and
back
also,
to him, because I enjoy it.
And shout out to James here, man. James Caldwell here. Like I said, my business partner here, and the reason I got both of y'all on. You know what I mean? Y'all are part of his illustrious network, and this guy here puts key relationships, you know what I'm saying, to the forefront, you know, and that's one thing that James does, is relationships, building relationships, keeping relationships, and you know, one of the, you know, greatest guys I know. And you know, like I said, I love doing this business with him, And man, I'm just telling you, I'm happy, you know, that he has you in his network and he has Bame in his network. And so, you know, that's how this all came together. So shout out to James Caldwell in the MEG group. So now when you went and you filmed it, and like you said, your premise was actually filming it to highlight of all woman ran city, and then you uncovered all of those things. It's like as you were filming, this became even more interesting to you, you know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, you discovered all these things, and I guess probably the city of Pine Lake and, you know, the residents and everything else were saying, okay, you know, she's here highlighting and they're filming, you know, these different parts. But the other part came out because it wasn't a secret, it wasn't hidden, but yet it uncovered itself, which made this Welcome to Pine Lake a different story from where I guess it was initially intended to be.
Well, yes, it is. I mean, many residents in Pine Lake are extremely unhappy with me. The council is extremely unhappy with me. The mayor no longer speaks to me.
Wow.
But if you never said what I find negative. Curious,
even now,
what I find curious is that no one. When I went to the mayor and the council, none of them, they never thought, wow, well, they'll be in the courtroom and they'll see this. Like, it didn't even occur to them that maybe that was something that they probably shouldn't have out in the open, because I think in the council's, you know, mind's eye is what they're doing is legal, and it is legal. But it doesn't mean it's right. We know, like I'm singing to the choir here. We know that systemic racism is codified. It's legal in many instances. That's the problem. And so this is systemic racism, and it's legal. Now, some people will say, well, systemic racism is just people doing racist things.
Right.
Well, what this council is doing by extracting money from the surrounding black communities is racism.
Right.
And so what if it's legal? It doesn't make it right.
Doesn't make it right.
And the other thing, you know, one of the council members said to me off camera, well, if this were a problem, the local press would have been all over it. Well, first of all, the local press has been decimated over the years. We know this.
Yeah.
Some of the best reporting in the country historically came from local beat reporters. We don't have them anymore. And second of all, if you, a black man, is driving down Rockbridge Road and you don't know that there's this city that actually just looks like a subdivision to you, and you're driving and you forgot to pay your tag and you get pulled over, and then you go into a courtroom and you see black defendants, a black judge, a black chief of police, a black prosecutor, everyone in the courtroom is black, what would you be seeing? You would be seeing exactly what you would expect to see in that part of DeKalb County. So it wouldn't raise a red flag to you. You'd say, okay, I'm in this part of DeKalb County, and you wouldn't even recognize that you were in a little white city.
Right.
Because you wouldn't see white people.
Correct.
So it's very well hidden.
One of my guys, John Wallace, in the Facebook chat says, is that the only stretch of road where they issue tickets? And I guess that's Rockbridge.
Yes.
That is. That's what I said.
It doesn't even go through the residential area. These are not fines. These are not speeding tickets. These are not questions of public safety. These are expired tags. And the problem is that in Georgia, traffic is criminalized, and this is a state problem. So if someone who has no faith in the criminal justice system, and they don't show up for court because they got some rinky-dink ticket on Rockbridge Road, when they get stopped for running a little stop sign or whatever, there has now a warrant out for their arrest.
Wow.
And that is so destructive to a person's life.
Yes. Yes. All right. Now tell me a little bit about the end of the film. We were about to go into that in your discussion.
Yeah. So at the end of the film, the city council decides to close the lake because of COVID, close public access to the lake, close all the public spaces, but they decide to keep the courtroom open.
Wow.
They closed it. They closed it for a little while, and then they opened it up again. And so while you hear this person say, it's a very courageous decision to close the beach, and then they made another courageous decision to open up the court. I mean, it's just so the courtroom is open, and then we see on the very road where they're extracting money, where the city council has decided it's okay to continue extracting money from the surrounding black communities and black families, they put up a Black Lives Matter sign.
Wow.
To honor George Floyd and Breonna Taylor.
Wow. Wow. All right, Lisa, so let me ask you this. Your thoughts on this change on the voting rights here. That's a whole nother shifting, but I just wanted to get your thought process here. You being a filmmaker here in Georgia, a lot of things going on here.
I find that what they did was so bonehead, because first of all, this whole idea of not giving out water and snacks to people standing in line, it's such... Kesey, do you not vote because someone doesn't give you water and snacks in line? No.
No.
Of course you vote. If somebody wants to vote, they're gonna... But it's such an old way of thinking about, lines of, impoverished black people, and if we just don't give them water and snacks, maybe they won't show up or they'll give up. I mean, it's so, I mean, I can't even. So I'm disgusted and disheartened that they try to do these things to keep, black people and away from the polls. Yeah. But the cards that they showed doing this are just so bleh. Like, really? This is the effort that you came up with? What century are you living in? Right?
Yes.
I mean, truly. For me, when I'm standing in line, I want a meal. If someone doesn't bring me an entire meal, then I'm going home. I mean, it's just... I
mean, absolutely crazy, the mindset there, Yeah. And then you got the CEOs, you got people making their statements because, it was a lot of stuff coming down in Georgia. And they're like,
but that's power. I mean, that's exciting to see. It was late, but, when people because in America, the money talks. We know that left and right. And so if people don't want to come to Georgia to do business because of this, then that's what's going to make, one of the things, and the lawsuits obviously will make a change.
Absolutely crazy.
It's crazy.
All right. There was another project, we're going to spend a little time on it. Netflix original, A Song for Latasha. You were executive producer on that project. Tell me who was the director and whose film was this?
Yes,
I'm gonna give her credit.
Yeah, so the director is Sophia Nali Allison, and her creative producer is Janice Duncan, and they made a film about Latasha Harlins because they wanted to reimagine her life. So Latasha Harlins was 15 years old, and she was murdered by a shopkeeper in South Central LA on March 16th, 19 91, 13 days after the Rodney King incident. And she never, like, people, she was, the black girl that got killed in the shop. She was never, dignified following her death. She was never talked about in the press in a way that showed what a loss it was for all of us when she was killed. Right. And so Sophia wanted to reimagine her life, and she created a film that is absolutely mesmerizing and stunning and sensitive, and it just checks all the boxes. And it's got an Oscar nomination in documentary short category. And I can't say enough about the film and the team that put it together. And I was the executive producer together with Aubrey Aiden Bowie, and so we helped find some financing for the film. But the creative vision was completely that team of people. And if people walk away from this with one thing that they're going to do, I hope that they watch A Love Song for Latasha, and then Pine Lake afterwards.
That's awesome, though. Very, very, very good products there under your belt. Got anything that you're working currently on or for future?
Yeah, I have a couple projects. I'm trying to work on a project around waste, so human waste, and how we have a crisis in this country, especially in poor communities, where a lot of people are not hooked up to the county sewage lines, and they have septic tanks that aren't working, and that has a terrible effect on people's lives and on people's health. Wow. So that's one project I'm looking at. And this is in particular, it's one area I'm looking at is Alabama. Yeah. So on the road from Selma to Montgomery is where a lot of people don't even have proper sewage. So that's a story that I'm looking at. And then another one is something around the governor's race. Okay.
And then my wife's from Mississippi, so I'm sure Alabama to Mississippi, somewhere in between that. Totally. Probably the same issues. And it's crazy, like I said, to be in the United States and you still got some portions, it's like it's, I don't know, I can't say the word third world country, but, it's just, to be here and to have situations like that where not everything is created equal.
No, it's, and the thing with the waste is that what happens is then kids can get worms, intestinal worms, and they pass it to each other in school. So it can become a problem within a school system. And these are things that we shouldn't be seeing in this country. Wow. So everyone should have the ability to have access to clean water and sewage. And Catherine Flowers, who works with the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, she wrote an amazing book called Waste about this very problem in poor communities, but mostly poor Black communities. Right. It needs to stop.
Right. Yes. I got another creator that's in my chat room, John Wallace. Been in Atlanta for a long time, and he moved to Haiti. And so he said he wanted to come back to Georgia, but he said Haiti's looking okay after some of these things that Georgia has going on. That's one of his comments. And then the other thing about the waste, he actually says is Haiti is like that. They have a situation like you're describing as well.
It's terrible. I mean, it's terrible I've been in a lot of countries where intestinal worms is a huge problem, like in Uganda and in Tanzania and in Peru. And the kids have then stunted growth. They pass it to each other, and you have to deworm a whole school system. And they just don't ever have the chance to catch up sometimes. And it's just terribly sad because it affects entire communities. So we can't, have that happening here too. And I'm sorry that's, I would assume that would be the situation in Haiti because of the, open sewage and also damage from earth, the whole thing.
Yes. And Flint, think about Flint. Still going on. That's crazy. The water
there's a city in Illinois, Centerville, where they have a combined sewage system, and we have these big rain events that runs over, and the sewage comes out into the community and makes people sick.
Disturbing, very disturbing. Yeah. All right, Elisa, I appreciate you definitely coming in. How can people get in contact with you, or give your website and your
I love people
handles?
to get in contact with me. So the website for the film, and there's a place to contact me there, is welcometopinelake.com. Mm-hmm. And then I'm Atlanta Elisa on Instagram. Because I love Atlanta, so I'm Atlanta Elisa.
Atlanta Elisa.
And I just want to thank you, because this has been the most enjoyable 2 hours, because I listened to the first hour too.
And
so
he
thank
said the same
you so
thing.
much for having me.
A great show with both of y'all combined. I have to agree. It's like together, probably I've done podcasts for 6 years, and together both of y'all made one of the greatest episodes I ever did.
Thank you. So. I was worried listening to Ben. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be so boring.
No, not at all.
I didn't want to follow him. But anyway, thank you so much. I just love this. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you. Anytime you have anything you want to discuss, you want to come back and talk about any of your projects, whatever, you're always welcome. Open door
Thank
here.
You.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
I will.
Enjoy your evening. Have some wine, Chardonnay, whatever, rosé, or some seltzer water. But yes, take care, and
have a good night.
I'll see you on social media.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks. Take care. All right, you back with KC. Yes, gotta give a shout out. Man. We had an awesome show. Yes. Big ups. My man Paint. First hour. Atlanta influences everything. Big ups to him. Big ups for the movement, for the knowledge. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that know Atlanta. This guy knows Atlanta. I'm talking about the infrastructure. I'm talking about the culture. I'm talking about deep down into it. Big ups to him for joining us. Then, second hour, got to give a shout out to Elisa Gambino, who, man, 2 great films we discussed. The Welcome to Pine Lake. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and get Welcome to Pine Lake. It's on all kinds of different platforms. Check it out. You get to see the documentary and just see what's going on in a city that's right off Memorial Drive, man, between, Memorial Drive and Stone Mountain, Rock Bridge. It's crazy. But she was a director on that and also executive producer of Song for Latasha. But big ups to her. Awesome discussion. Yes. And listen, I gotta give a big ups to the audience, and man, you guys definitely were tuned in, engaged. Got my Facebook listeners, I got my YouTube listeners, I got my X Squad Radio audio chat family. I got my man Chief Rocker from Built for This Network in here. I got my man James Caldwell, who I said was key and influential, and having me even, knowing these people. You know what I mean? Big ups to him, man. Shout out to him. Caldwell Group, Whole Team Enterprises, LLC, if you partner in the MEG Group. Shout out to them, man. Because that's how a lot of this stuff, the seeds was planted. So big ups to him as well. Shout out to my man John Wallace. Hey, man, big ups to you, man, for coming through. Known him for a long time, Major creative, man. He does a lot of good work. Big ups to you. Represent A-Town all the way to Haiti. Yes. Appreciate you definitely coming through. Got a shout out to my man D Greatest. D Greatest. Another show host here on X Squad Radio. Check him out. Sunday evenings, Love Jones, 7 p.m. Representing that South Central LA. Also West Side Wednesdays. Also the Gudio. Check him on X Squad Radio any time of the week, man. That dude does his thing. Yes. Got to give a shout out to my son, Kyle, in here. Dropping some couple 1 or 2 liners in here. Big up to Kyle coming in. Yes. Appreciate you, son. In the YouTube. And also got to give a shout out to my man, Ben, BS3 Radio, X Squad affiliate. Also the owner of BS3 Radio Network. Big ups. And my partner in crime, I gotta give it up, man. I gotta give it up to my guy Melvin, man. My guy Melvin is, you know what I mean, a key component of what keeps the gears running, literally. You know what I'm saying? Not just because of his business, Bay 11 Auto in Conyers, but if you do need a cheap mechanic, I'm gonna play the drop in a second. This guy right here will get your car running, and he ain't gonna break your pockets. A lot of people say that, but this guy lives that. Yep. Got to give a shout out to my man James Montgomery, Ear Hustling Podcast, one half of the Ear Hustling Podcast with this guy Eric, another X Squad show. They actually fired up tonight, Thursday, 9 p.m. They do their thing. Big ups to them. And also got to give a shout out to Togo, who is Lonely Hearts Cafe executive producer. Big ups. All right, I think I handled everybody. If I missed you, hey, blame it on my mind, not my heart. Anyway, gotta give a shout out to my wife, man, for letting all this stuff go. All this stuff happen, man. You know what I'm saying? Me down here for a couple hours talking to myself on the mic. Yes. John said, not cheap, affordable. Yes. Thanks, John. I appreciate you, man. Definitely coming through. Yeah. Oh, he's talking about Melvin. Yes. Thank you, man. Not cheap, affordable. There you go. Let me go ahead and drop this. I'm gonna drop this drop on it, and y'all can see what I'm talking about, man. This guy right here, like I said, Melvin is somebody you need to see.
We all hate when we have unexpected car problems. Well, I'm here to tell you about a viable solution. Bay 11 Auto and my man Melvin. You have emission problems? Brakes need changing? Transmission slipping? Is your car just driving sluggish? No problem is too big. I live on the other side of town and I drive over an hour to a guy that I trust. Melvin is honest, dependable, and definitely not in the business to break your pockets. Come see the official mechanic Melvin at Bay 11 Auto. You will be glad you did. You can reach him at 1455 General Arts Road, Conyers, Georgia, or 404-295-5715. That's 404-295-5715.
Hey, man, thanks for kicking it with Key C, man. I appreciate y'all coming through. We'll see you next week. We got a great April coming up, too. Great April lineup. So April 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, 29th. I think that's all the dates, but yeah, got a very good April. So stay tuned for Kicking the Key C, X Squad Radio, KeyC.com, all those other places, all the places where podcasts are found. I'm there.
This is a X Squad podcast.
This is your boy D Rex from South Central, and you tune into X Squad Radio Network. Yeah, man.
Dre Tag Music.
I need her now. She brightens my day. Don't worry, my baby, I'll be there. When you wake up in the morning, I'll be there. Springtime or fall, on me you can call, girl, I'll be there.
standing beside me. So for your loving, I'll do my best. Hold you higher than the rest. Mistakes I made before, I won't do them no more. Don't worry, my baby, I'll be there. When you wake up in the morning, I'll be there. Springtime or fall, on me you can call, girl, I'll be there. Being with me, it ain't easy. I'm here for you. From the shows to the studio, you should know I'm here for you. I believe that you're heaven sent. Your love is what I represent. You put the lyrics to my pen as you're next to me. Write your destiny, girl. The first to do the things you love, and I want to be the last. 'Cause I found my angel, and she found my heart. My heart. My heart. She found my heart. Don't worry, my baby, I'll be there. When you wake up in the morning, I'll be there. Springtime or fall, on me you can call, girl, I'll be there. Don't worry, my baby, I'll be there. When you wake up in the morning, I'll be there. Springtime or fall, on me you can call, girl, I'll be there. I need her now. She's my sunshine. She brightens my day. Don't worry, my baby. Don't worry, my baby. Don't worry, my baby.
Tonight, I will be magnificent. I will be better than I ever been. I will be free. I will shine bright, reflect the limelight. Do it like this is my last time. I will be me. Can you see me? Standing in front of the crowd with a sound that resounds like thunder. Make them so proud when I rock loud, 'cause I shut them down and make MCs wonder how I can do it like this at any given time. Give me 16 bars, I get in your mind. Look and you will find that I'm nothing more than a messenger that's blessed with the gift of rhyme. I stay on my grind, trying to find my treasure. Diamonds form under pressure. Spit it so clear, make them all see the picture. Nothing like spitting for those who really get you. Tonight, I will be magnificent. I will be better than I ever been. I will amaze me, true to myself, they can't change me. I will be hip hop, you don't stop. I will be sitting on the edge of a dream, and I'm always this close. I've been rocking mics up and down the East Coast, done radio shows, been an open mic host. I once even warmed up the crowd for most, but none of that matters when you still punching in, taking calls, and when it all falls down, I'm left wondering where the fire went and how to get it back into my environment. 'Cause right now I'm living for retirement. I've been doing this so long and I'm still aspiring. Time's moving, looking at the clock, 'cause it ain't enough to be the dopest MC on the block. I need more of it. I give you all of me with no frontin'. I need y'all to love it. And even if you don't, I'm still coming. Vote for anything if you don't stand for something. Tonight, I will be magnificent. I will be better than I ever been. I will amaze me, true to myself, they can't change me. I will be hip hop, you don't stop. I will be. I change what I can, the things I control. The rest of this, I just let it roll. Say goodbye to the girl with the stagnated flow. I only make music that's good for my soul. On the road, so ain't no stopping me now. I've been through the struggle, I haven't forgotten my trial. From the childhood to grandma's death, it's been wild. Never know it, 'cause I never show it when I smile. Pray for tomorrow, and I hope that it comes. And if I do wait, I'm
Squad, I got one more question, man. Man, y'all gonna pay me for this?
This is a podcast.